Chapter 12. Blood dripped and screams tore through the air as I slept, pulling me violently from the silent dream world I'd been pulled down into by the pain medication Sarah administered. My eyes shot open, and I sat up with a strangled cry, my throat as dry as the Sahara, and causing my voice to crack and break. My heart hammered, my hand flying to my chest in an attempt to slow it down. Anxiety crept up my throat and choked cries that I could barely swallow in time to stop them, breathing past the building nausea in my gut, threatening to spill over. I took a deep breath through my nose and pushed it through the pursed lips, my heart finally beginning to slow through a steady, rhythmic beat. The searing pain I would have felt in my belly before with such quick movement was now barely a dull ache, and the soreness in the rest of my body was nothing more than a little stiffness in my joints. Sarah was correct in the fact that those like me healed quickly, which was something I'd never noticed before, because I'd never once been beaten or badly injured. A paper cut healed within a matter of hours, but a paper cut was small in comparison to what I'd just been through. My eyes adjusted to the gloom in my bedroom. No light whatsoever shone through the thin curtains. It was night time. That I was certain of. The only light coming into the room was the light making its way under the closed door that led out into the hallway. I was the only one in the apartment, correct? How the hell was I supposed to know? Did Sarah and Jackson leave? Or were they still here to watch over me? Then I heard the male voice from beyond the door. My heart rate picked up again, unease growing my belly as I turned to place my feet on the cool floor. A shiver crept up my spine. I reached out without taking my eyes off the sliver of light coming from underneath the door, opening the drawer of my nightstand to find what I had hidden there. My hand wrapped around the handle of the Beretta 950 Jetfire I'd owned since I was 21, and obtained my concealed weapons permit for the state of New York. The magazine lay next to the gun, and once I removed them both from the drawer, I slid the magazine with ease like a pro. I did have to take classes to learn how to handle for the test to get my CWP, and continued the classes for a while after I'd earned. I was good, if not better, than most with a gun, and I knew it. My cluster was so scarily accurate, I impressed even the most seasoned shooter from day one. I just never thought I'd have to use it. The gun wasn't intimidating. Of course, it was only a .25 caliber that took 8 rounds, but it was great for close range, which, when dealing with a home invasion, is most likely to take care of business with a well-placed shot. Hyde surfaced, letting me have control of my body and faculties, despite the fear licking its way up through my gut. I wasn't sure who was in my apartment now, but they were about to get a rude awakening. And if it were Syra, I would have a lot of apologising to do. Some may wonder why I didn't have it locked away in a case. My answer was simple. If someone busted into my bedroom, would I actually have time to get it without getting myself killed in the process? Probably not. And my life was too important to me to risk in such a way, the most recent events notwithstanding. I moved toward the door, holding the weapon at low ready, as I'd been taught in class. Both hands were on the handle, one resting just beneath the butt of the gun, my finger ready to pull the trigger, but not touching it. My hand shook when I reached for the doorknob, and I stopped, taking a breath to try to steady myself, just enough so I could leave the room as quietly as possible. The adrenaline running through me caused me to be hyper-focused, hyper-aware, and so shaky that I felt like a cell phone on vibrate. Opening the door as slowly as possible, I made my way into the hallway, rounding the corner with my back pressed against the wall in an attempt to remain unseen until I wanted to be seen. My breath hitched in my chest, holding itself there until the danger was gone. I had to force it out, pushing my lungs to do their job as I silently slunk down the hallway toward the living room, which I could see now with perfect clarity. A slight tingle of warmth moved through my belly and licked behind my ears. And my eyes. Hyde felt the danger and she felt my terror. I was only hoping it wasn't for nothing. You don't think she'll be angry you've been keeping all of this from her? A distinctly male voice floated through the hallway, deep and resonating as it echoed up the walls. Terror seized my heart and I could swear it skipped a couple of beats as the emotion took hold. It was a voice I didn't know. One that I'd never heard before. Not in my life. I adjusted my hands on the gun's grip as sweat caused my palms to become slick against the black carbon fibre. I took a deep breath and prepared to round the corner that led into the living room, knowing that a possible assailant could be on the other side. To take me into a darkened room with just one single light to shine down on me. To take me and to hurt me. Again. But who was he speaking to? And who had been hiding what from me? There was only one way to find out. Before another word could be uttered, I turned the corner, the Beretta pointing at the dead centre of a broad male chest. My eyes met those of Jackson, who I assumed was Syra's bodyguard for whatever reason she needed one. His eyes were a bright blue, almost like the ocean, and his jaw was strong, set in a frustrated manner as his eyes took me in. I didn't know Jackson, but did I trust Syra? Yes. Well, about as close to trust as I could get at this point. There were so many unanswered questions. As I looked at him, I could see my wild expression reflected in his eyes. He reached up and placed his hands over mine, flipping on the safety, but not attempting to do any more than that. Don't you think this is a little extreme, Miss McAllister? He asked, raising an eyebrow in a mixture of curiosity and amusement. There was a hint of a southern accent underneath the words. He'd been trying to stifle it, but it came straight through. No. I paused. I don't. I let the irritation fill my voice, so it was audible. His eyebrows rose even higher, and a smirk over his lips immediately diminished as I released the safety on the gun pointed at him. Syra came around him with hands out, beseeching me to stop, and said, "Blythe, it's okay. He's not here to hurt you. He's with me." I watched him skeptically, the gun still pointing at his chest, my finger lightly grazing the trigger. He reached out and slowly turned the safety on, so he knew I couldn't shoot him, but feeling like I held the power in my hands felt good. Hyde was still moving slightly underneath the surface, but I could tell even she knew now that he wasn't a threat. Not to us, anyways. If she felt he was all right, she had to be correct. She always was. My eyes shifted to Syra, who stood beside Jackson, her beautiful brown eyes begging me to put the gun down. And then I looked back at the man in front of me. He was a looker for sure, but dangerous? Maybe. But not to us, from what I could tell. He had plenty of chances already and hadn't taken a single one of them. But could I trust him? Or Syra? Miss McAllister, Jackson implored. I heard Hyde slither in my mind and say softly, "You have to stop this before it gets out of hand. It's all in your hand. Put the damn gun down." I listened, lowering the gun's muzzle to the floor, and even going as far as to let Jackson remove it from my grip. He removed the magazine, cleared it in one fail-safe motion, and slid the round and magazine into his suit jacket, then placed the weapon on the small table, not even 5 feet away. My body sagged with relief, the anxiety leaving me just as quickly as it had appeared. I slumped against the corner of the wall and stood there, staring at the marbled floor. Syra gingerly touched my arm, and I had to suppress a startled jump. "You need to sit down, and I'll get you something to eat," she said, as she attempted to lead me over to the couch. I didn't move. "No. I want answers, and you're going to give them to me." I looked up at her, searching her stern expression for even a hint of compassion. It was there, but barely. "Right now." She nodded. "All right. Jackson, can you call something in?" "Yes, ma'am," he answered behind her. I could no longer see him because I couldn't tear my gaze from her. "Looks like I'm all yours." Only then did I walk with her to take a position on the couch while she sat in the plush armchair that I would have normally sat in. We were silent for an awkward moment, and then one of the million questions I had popped into my head, and I just had to ask. "Who the hell is that?" I asked, lazily pointing toward the kitchen behind us. I could hear Jackson speaking softly into the kitchen as he ordered from one of the many takeout places New York was known for. "That's Jackson. He's my bodyguard." It was time for my eyebrows to raise in amusement. "A bodyguard? Really?" I laughed. "Yes." She paused, thinking over her next words carefully. "My line of work can be..." Another pause. "Dangerous." I scoffed at that. "Syra, you're a freaking painter. Exactly how dangerous can that be?" "As you've guessed by now, that's not all I do." Her eyes studied me as I took everything in, confusion one of the primary emotions I felt at that exact moment. "So," I leaned forward, looking deeply into her eyes as she watched my every movement. "What else do you do, Syra? And furthermore, how did you find me?" "I work for the same man that Johann and Mitch work for. That was one way I knew where to find you when you went missing," she explained. "The same man. Should I regret letting Jackson take my gun?" I looked over at him and back at her. She smirked. "You know, if you wanted to kill me, you don't need that. But yes, we work for the same man." "And the plot to kill me?" "Was a plan all their own, Blythe," she interrupted. "That you can believe. My boss has no intention of harming, let alone killing you. Not now, not ever." "Why?" "He's become very interested in you." I thought about that for a moment. "The paintings? Were those just a way to get to me? Or do you really have visions about me? That's all true. At first, it was just about the visions, and then once he saw them and realized that you are what you are, he wanted to know more. With your reputation, you weren't hard to find. Then I sent a painting to your gallery as ordered. He knew you would see it and want to know more, so you would have to find me, and I would lead you to him. And Kyle? What happened with him? She waved a dismissive hand and said, that was something we hadn't expected. They knew you were what you were because of this entire thing and decided to take action. The four that had been killed before were all there doing, and when you went missing, that was when we had to put two and two together. So you're saying those other women were just like me? She didn't respond, knowing I knew the answer as soon as I'd asked the question. Who's your boss? That was the next logical question I knew to ask, as well as one of the most important. My mind was running with a million different thoughts in a million different directions, so it was hard to know exactly where to take this discussion next. I had to slow down and get all the answers I was looking for before Syra decided she was done answering them. But after what I'd been through because of this entire ordeal, I deserved each and every one of them. His name is Adam, she said matter-of-factly. Not that it explained everything. It didn't, not even close. Adam, I asked, feeling my eyebrows furrow in confusion as I looked at her. Syra sat back in the chair, and that was when I noticed she had changed her clothes. She was no longer wearing the blood-stained garb I saw her in earlier. She was in an all-red ensemble, and the symbolism wasn't lost on me. She crossed her arms over her chest and smiled, knowing she had my attention. Yes. She paused, her gaze shifting to me and someone behind me. Could only assume that was Jackson had finished his task and was now standing in the room watching our exchange. Adam. Because he was the first. My confusion only deepened after these words. They didn't answer anything, and it really didn't help me put all the pieces of this growing puzzle together. The first what? Syra shifted in her chair, leaning forward just enough to sit on the very edge of the chair's cushion. Her brown eyes bore into mine as she opened her mouth to say the words that would seal my fate. The first incubus.